Good evening. Welcome to Echelon Orchid episode 36. My name and your host, Dr. Dan Ford. Joining me, my co-host on Whiskey Wednesday, the infamous Dr. Jason Pittman. Welcome to Whiskey Wednesday, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and it's great to be back. Thank you.
So last time I think you forgot your whiskey or something like that. Did you bring whiskey this time?
No, man.
No, again?
No. Well, see, this is the problem. I have Founders All Day IPA. I like the taste of an IPA personally. This is the problem in the South, man, with these ABC stores. It's like not the most convenient to be like, hey, I want some whiskey. I got to roll over there. Because right now I'm in finals week, so I'm not on campus on a regular schedule, let's say.
Right. Well, I'm drinking one of my new favorites, relatively affordable Glenfodry 12-year. It's a nice. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Is it Speyside? Is that how you're supposed to pronounce it? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They have a. I think I had it on the show earlier. A 29-year, which is like $200 for basically a 30-year Scotch. That's really good price.
Yeah,
their 12-year is like $40.
Yeah, that's completely affordable, man.
Oh yeah, and it tastes great. So, cheers, my friend.
Cheers. I was going to pull out, but it's not quite ready. I'd sent you some messages, and I think I put it on Twitter, that I got my kombucha still set back up, and I've been brewing. I'm on my 5th generation right now, and this one I did a double fermentation. Check this out, man. Because I don't like adding fruit to my kombucha, my fermented tea. I put just a little half teaspoon of pure organic maple syrup in it.
Oh, yeah, dude, that's highly fermentable.
Yep. Right. I gave it a second fermentation. I just stuck it in the fridge last night to stop the fermentation. I'm kind of anxious to get into it.
Yeah, it'll be nice. I'm knowing a slight amount of things about fermenting stuff. Kombucha, it's easy to make, and it's so low alcohol content to begin with. But I mean, not if you're adding maple syrup. Depending on how much you added, you might get it up to a beer's worth, depending on what you did.
Well, and I'm not going for that. I kind of like the probiotic part of it.
Oh yeah.
And I like that taste, that kind of vinegary sour.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So for me, I really like the ginger flavoring when I have kombucha. I'm not a big fan of the fruit in it, but I like the ginger. I just like ginger, quite a bit, and so I do that quite a bit.
That's my next brew. I got another gallon that'll probably be ready. I let mine go probably a bit longer than most people because I like the vinegary kickback to it. I don't like the sweetness of it, so I'll start, instead of starting to taste at 7 days, I start tasting at 10, and then sometimes I'll let it go almost 2 full calendar weeks. Which for fermented tea is a long time, man. That's the nice thing about kombucha. It has a quick turnover.
Yeah, definitely does. So check this out. So I've been doing some reading on leadership and came across this one thing, an example. And so then I had to dig into it even further. All right.
Okay.
And this has to do with a conversation we had talked about. I don't know if it was on one of the shows or not, but it revolved around mead. Okay. So I started thinking about this a lot more and really diving into it. The best example that I can come up with for what a leader needs to be is a beekeeper. All right. So reason, leaders can't make the product. We can't make honey, but we can put our bees in a right location to have a cycle of productivity. They're, they're taking the pollen, they're, pollinating things, they're coming back, they're turning it into, I think at first goes royal jelly and then eventually honeycomb, stuff like that. If I, as the beekeeper, don't put them in a great spot, they're going to make bad honey, like what I feel is like, clove honey. Like that's, I want, these honeybees need to be around like, fruit. To me, that's the best tasting honey when you get that. So we can't really make any of that. And we got to put our people in the right spot to succeed. If I use smoke and I start smoking these bees, eventually, I mean, it's a short-term result, but they're going to get agitated and produce a bad product. So I can't just like yell at them, right? I can't say, hey, you're going to do this because I'm the CEO, I'm the whatever, because that gets into, the inverse relationship with the more times I have to use my position of power, the less effective I become over time. On occasion, I'm going to get stung by a bee, right? But I know if I get stung, what things to put on it, the antiseptic, stuff like that. I can manage that risk of occasionally getting stung. But I can't force these bees to do anything. I've got to basically just put them in the right spot to succeed, and care for them. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about quite a bit, is that aspect. Because if you're working in the business, then you're not working on it, and you're not working on yourself because you're too busy on those day-to-day tasks. The bees are going to make the honey. The bees are going to go out and do it, put them in a place to succeed. And I think with our employees and people come across, you got to, convince them that they're in the right spot to succeed, and, be kind.
Man, that's a really compelling analogy, dude. I like that. Because there's some pieces in there too that are subtle, that you can get a little deeper on. Like, you're really, more specifically, tell me what you think about this, putting the queen in the right position, because the queen then is your distributed leader, right? That's your delegated authority. And the queen really runs that hive. There's the heart of the hive, right? And all the workers serve that task or that goal. I just finished an interesting book called Surrounded by Idiots. And I was interested in this book. It's interesting. There's a tie in here.
Autobiography?
Yeah, it's actually what made me start thinking about it. Like, we've been around people, and I think probably in our careers we've said it, like, man, all these idiots. And then I've always kind of wondered, like, well, like, why do I think they're idiots just because they're not doing what I want them to do? Whatever, right? And so I got this book, and man, it's really good because, one of the things, like, we've talked about Myers-Briggs before, or the big 5 personality tests and stuff like that, right? And those are no matter what side of the fence you're on in their validity, they're ways to explain personality. That's what they are, as instrumentations, right? In social science and psychology. What have always found unsatisfying about it is, how do I take somebody that's on a different part of that spectrum from me and integrate with them such that we don't have this friction where we think one another are idiots, right? And that's basically what this book explains. It doesn't dwell so much on what personality archetypes there are, even though it does. But what the book really focuses on is, as a leader, how do you pick a team that's diverse enough to be successful, but also not introduce unnecessary friction? And then how do you integrate or associate or relate with these other personality archetypes? It's fascinating, man, because you also have that in a hive too. Like, the hive can reject a queen. Yeah. And that's catastrophic for that hive. It'll collapse if it doesn't get a new queen soon enough.
Absolutely. And it's interesting when you talk about the aspect of I'm surrounded by idiots. It becomes much more of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Anytime something happens, like, see, I was right. They're an idiot. And we want to be right. So we keep finding ways to point out why we're right. And changing that perspective of, well, maybe they're just in the wrong spot, right? Maybe this, and again, back with the bees, it's not producing the honey that I like. Why? That's the aspect of working on the business instead of in it. I can step back and take a look. I'm not looking at the day-to-day tasks, the week-to-week, those things that just happen all the time. I'm going to step back and go, why am I having this problem? Well, could be anything. Maybe the colony has rejected the queen. Maybe it's just there's no more, blueberries or whatever. Someone took out the bush or several bushes, right? Don't know. Got to figure it out. So the bees aren't idiots. And then I also look at it, if I keep thinking I'm surrounded by idiots, well, let's say that it's not necessarily at this point self-fulfilling. Well, I kind of put them around me. So I must be even more of a fool to hire a bunch of idiots and to keep them around me.
Yeah. It's the exact same phenomenon. Back in the day when I was at a startup, and I smoked, I would go outside and have a cigarette. And sometimes, depending on what kind of work was going on, like if I had a big automation task running, it might take a couple hours to run. And so, well, you go outside and have a cigarette, right? And I would see this guy from another company that was in the same building. And one day he said to me, hey, I don't think you do any work because I see you out here all the time. And my first reaction was, but if you see me, you're out here too. Thus, you must not be doing any work, if that's your rationalization, right? And so to me, it's a funny little way to illustrate this point you're on, which I think is very good. It's that not only should you stop and ask yourself the question before you verbalize it, like, yeah, it's not that everybody's an idiot. It's why do I think they're idiots? Like, there's a reason why I'm thinking that, and let me examine that. But sometimes you're the source of it, right? And so it pays to examine what you're doing, because let's imagine the worst case scenario, because I think the worst case scenario is it's true. Speaking from a personal perspective, right? I'm looking at this situation and realizing, yeah, it's true. I'm surrounded by idiots. Well, then why am I still there? What are you doing?
Yeah, if I'm the person responsible, right, and I think for those that are tuning in, the aspect of leadership has nothing to do with title. Okay, I've seen some amazing people show a high degree of leadership skills that are junior people on the totem pole, right? They're not by any stretch of the imagination senior. They just had a plan, took charge, action, accountable, and gained people's trust, and they become the go-to people. Now, at a certain point in time, they've got to figure out how they're going to step back from being the doer to now figuring out which levers to push and pull to get things flowing correctly. And I go back to that aspect of, if I'm the leader, I'm accountable. I'm 100% accountable. I don't take the credit. I give out the credit, but I take 100% of the blame. Right? Even if it's my idea, it doesn't matter. I didn't do it. Right? I may come up with the crazy idea, but without my people being sold, and I really believe that we should always be closing, in this case, always be selling. I'm going to sell to my employees why this vision is right. I need them to buy into it. I don't want to force them into it. If I force them into it, bad things are going to eventually happen. It's bad mojo, karma, whatever you want to talk, however you want to, not good. So when we get to that point of, if I'm surrounded all by idiots, I need to do something to change that, because more than likely, I feel like I'd be the one that's the idiot. I didn't provide them the right training. I didn't provide them the right motivation. I didn't provide them the right reason why this idea is the right way to go. And instead of getting mad, start investigating, right? Yeah. Assume you've got everything wrong and come at it with some fresh eyes. There's no harm in saying, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. This wasn't right. And we're going to move in a different direction. Don't keep doubling down on a bad decision.
Well, see, and I think that's also what's so powerful about this beehive metaphor, which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, the beehive is a symbol of industry, and it denotes production. Yeah. It's interesting you picked up on this, right? When the workers leave the hive to go find and they're foraging, right?
Right.
They become autonomous leaders of teams of one, which is themselves. Mm-hmm. And the way the hive survives over a period of time is that enough workers are successful enough of the time that the hive persists, because they gather enough pollen, and they're entrusted by the hive in this descending hierarchy of leadership, right, and delegation, to go out and forage and come back and faithfully communicate. They have a beautiful language in how they do this, right? It's very advanced. And so the rest of the hive then can adjust their plans and orientation to this common goal, which is go find the maximum amount of pollen that you can in the shortest amount of time, basically, right?
Right.
And what a beautiful idea to kind of structure a leadership style around, especially, I think you've probably been in the same situation I have, where most of us are, especially early in our career, like early mid-career, you know what I mean? Where you're kind of thinking, oh, maybe I should kind of don the title in some way. I remember when you asked me to be a VP, like, dude, I don't know, what the fuck is a VP? What does that even mean? Like at a real deep level, like, I agree with you that title doesn't denote leadership. I think leadership's a behavior, but within a corporate hierarchy, there's an expectation of what that role should be doing towards the mission. And so like, you got to find a way to figure that out.
Absolutely. And part of the aspect of titles in a company is too many people, I think, still do this today, which is they use their title to get things done. And it's just not going to work. I can't ever remember a time when I've said, you're going to do this because I am the blank, right? CTO, CIO, CSO. Never once have I done that. I can't remember a time. I've just never had to use that, because I know that if I do that, and they're not doing it because they believe in it. So then it's going to get done half-assed.
Well, or it's not going to be done well for long, right?
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing, is I think if anything, what a title or a role name or a label does is it tells you, as the one that is being given that role, title, name, whatever, right? There is a minimum standard of behavior that we expect of you. That doesn't mean you're the only one that can do those things. Like when we talk about leadership in an abstract way, right? That doesn't mean that the worker bee in the hive doesn't have responsibility. Even if they're a team of one, they do. They have to lead themselves properly, if nothing else.
Right. Well, because they all have authority, right? Even that individual worker bee has to, even with its small little, bee brain, has to make a decision, right? Their decision is to go left, right, up, down, forward, backward, get pollen, or die, right? Because it's
right,
and they have to make that conscious, or however conscious a bee is. But our employees are the same way. We can't force them to do anything. Just can't. They can choose to walk out. They can choose to do it. Ideally, we make the right case to provide them with enough evidence that our way is correct. And this is where I tend to always pivot this back to them as what I've essentially called the leadership social contract. All right, I lay out all these things for the employees, and then they have basically, to me, two choices: accept the deliverables and expectations as provided, or negotiate to an alternative set of deliverables. Now, it's my job to hear them out, right? Because they might have the better idea. I mean, they're on the floor, like they're in there doing the work. I may come up with the idea. It doesn't mean it's necessarily right, and that got them speaking and with other people thinking, and they found a better way. And I'm all for that. I'd rather be wrong and we win. Like they found a better way, perfect. Because, and I think you've heard me say this, never confuse what I want with reality.
Yeah, right.
Because it very well might be that what I'm asking for is either not available in the market, or the timeline that I want is just not realistic because of other competing priorities at the time. So, but that's that's the employee's job, is to then show me how it's not. So.
Well, to continue this, the hive has a mechanism to solve that same problem, right? Because more than one worker is going to come back with the information of, hey, there's pollen over here, we should go there. And so the hive as a collective has to decide which path or paths to follow, because there's only so many workers and there's only so much time in a day. And so you have to pick correctly. And so they have a way to communicate that and resolve that. Ultimately, this is where the metaphor breaks down a little bit, right? Because you're really talking about a super organism that's comprised of individuals, right? So that decision-making is emergent from a group. In leadership that we're normally talking about, it's one person, right? That's ultimately responsible. And that's where that's slightly different. But nonetheless, there is an individual entity that's deciding, no, we're doing this. And then everybody just shifts to it, right? Yeah, it's actually a really good metaphor, man.
Yeah. Well, I can't take credit. I started reading about it and I was like, this is pretty interesting. Let me do some more research on what do beehives really do? How do they function?
Ant colonies are very similar, man.
Are they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they have similar foraging behaviors. They have the same kind of problems they have to solve. They have migration, because beehives will move too.
Right.
Or they can, or they'll break off when they get to a certain size. They have defense to handle and all kinds of crazy shit. It's actually really interesting, man.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about recently. On top of that, just the next evolution from what I'm doing now is try to come up with with where I'm at the credit union. We're trying to implement some internal scorecards, so to speak, from not just for my department, but we're trying to do this for the whole company. And the reasoning that I've been pushing this is, we have an NPS that our every time our members interact with us, they basically fill out a survey. Did you do well? Did you not do well? And there's a school of thought of people go, well, people only respond to things when it's negative. Well, that's not necessarily true. Not when the people are invested. Like, so with a credit union, the members want there to be good service and they need you to know. They also understand that's also how we're going to get paid and bonused and, whether or not we get promotions. So they get this aspect, at least I believe they do. So I said, well, if and I don't know off the top of my head what our average NPS needs to be, but let's say it needs to be on average month over month as an 80. Well, I said then our service to each other can be no less than 80.
Sure.
All right. And I would even argue that it needs to be higher because it's going to diminish. Right. It's like the telephone game. Some part of the message is going to be lost. And so with what I plan on doing with my folks is, I'm all about competition. It's all about teams. Sometimes someone's going to call out sick or they're on vacation. So people are going to have to step up. We have our good days and our bad days. So within all of my departments, I'm like, all right, the department with the best internal NPS, they're each going to get like a gift card for basically lunches for the week. But the interesting part is, I don't want them to sandbag either. So, because that's just great for the reward, but there's got to be a consequence if you come in last.
Yeah.
And I don't mean it like, highly punitive, not like that. No. Something that is strong enough to be a deterrent, but not so strong that people are like, oh, this sucks. All right. F this, I'm out of here. So there's got to be something for Jovia. And I don't know what that will be. I'm going to put it back to each of my, department heads, be like, hey, make a suggestion. It's got to be something that still is productive, but you may not like to do it. Like if this was if it was a restaurant, I might say, all right, between the different, teams, the losing team, you're going to be cleaning the bathrooms that week. The bathrooms got to get cleaned no matter what. But it's not a great job. But in this case, you lost. You get to clean the bathrooms for the week. Yeah.
Well, and before somebody reacts negatively to that, the probability of at least some of those people being on duty to do that is high anyway. Yeah. So they're actually not really losing out, but it's motivational. Well, I'll tell you what I did. So we're in finals week, and I didn't want to deal with, because all the students are home. They got sent home for Thanksgiving, and if you went home, you can't come back. And I didn't really want to deal with online final exams, so I gave the exam part before we left, and then we're doing some like fun stuff for some students asked about extra credit, and I never mind, right? If you want to do work, I'll reward you for it, right? It just has to be really good work, and it has to be extraordinary. And so we threw it down. We're going to split the room in half. We're going to have a programming contest. Half the room versus half the room. The team that wins gets extra credit. The second place losers, needed some type of consequence for not coming in first. Their consequence is they have to get together, and they can film it individually and then put it together and send it to me. They have to make a video praising the Emperor of Mankind, blessed be his days. Like, come on, okay, man, you're asked out to making like a 2-second video.
Yeah.
Which everybody giggles about anyway, right? So to your point, there's ways to understand human behavior and incentive systems and get people moving on the same, let's say, rowing cycle, right? But also illustrate there are consequences for not getting things correct. Right now, it's kind of fun and giggly, or it's something you were going to do anyway, so it's low stakes, right? But do you really want to be that person?
Right. So that's a great thing, because it got me to thinking. So we have, our internal knowledge base is pretty weak at the moment. And so I might go, all right, well, the losing team, normally I'm putting out that they have to do, X amount a week. Like, well, for the next, month, you're going to do twice that.
Yep.
They got to get done.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a whole lot of documentation. There's not a whole lot of things that are documented in terms of procedures, things like that, how-tos, what's our playbook look like for someone brand new coming on, one of the teams? What are the things that are the most important for them to start learning? They can start creating that stuff. And so, I might go ahead and be like, all right, well, hey, you lost it for the next month. Instead of you doing, 1 a week, you're going to do, 2 a week.
Yeah. Right.
They got to get done.
Yeah. I agree, man. There's nothing wrong with competition. It's healthy. It's good. It's good for people to learn how to win. It's good for people to learn how to deal with not winning.
Right, because the goal is we want to provide good service. Right. That's in technology, and in many ways, we're in service to someone that's going to be in service to someone else. Right. Mm-hmm. They're only calling because they have a problem. That problem is they can't get something done, and it's either for a member or for another employee. So we got to figure out how to help them out. And if everyone's giving good service, hey, great. But we don't always. I'd love for there to be, make it really difficult, because all of the teams got rated at 100 NPS. Mathematically improbable. Right. There's too many people involved. So all it takes is, a couple of people saying, yeah, you didn't get this delivered when you said you were going to, and in the toilet, right? It's not gonna happen. So, well,
I mean, if you're a 10th over the speed limit, you're speeding. Just because you don't get pulled over for it doesn't make it not illegal.
I don't think I've ever just been a 10th over the speed limit.
Well, listen, man, if you're gonna
do it, you might as well go big, right? I've got the car that I've got because it's supposed to be driven at a high rate of speed. It's not a minivan.
Yeah, right. It is aerodynamically sound.
Yeah, it's not a minivan. Speaking of which was probably the best commercial I've ever seen. Right, in terms of something like that, it's the biggest troll you can basically do. So the I can't remember his name, but it was recent. It was like maybe a year ago that the CEO for Mercedes retired,
mm-hmm.
and they've shown basically a lookalike of him going to his house. You get dropped off in the brilliant basically Mercedes limousine, blah blah blah. He goes in, and then he comes out of his garage driving a BMW. I was like, and BMW said, hey, they said his name. Thanks for providing us the level of competition. It always, made us want to be better, right?
Yeah, right.
That competition mm-hmm. is healthy. I don't want to stifle it in any way. It's definitely all about the win. And in this way, it's a team win, not one individual. Because then, if we have some individuals that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, the team's going to let them know, because
you're right.
They're not going to want to be cleaning the proverbial toilets when they don't normally have to.
Right. Yeah, that'll kind of suss itself out over time.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know how the experiment will go. It's gonna, we might have the scorecard stuff ready to go for the company by the end of the year. But I'm just gonna I'll be forewarning them that this is coming and this is what we're gonna do.
Mhm.
And you certainly have a choice, but the better thing would be just win.
Yeah, right.
Right? Just win. Then you don't have to worry about it.
That's
Or
right. Exactly.
if you're playing golf in a foursome, don't be the person that has the lowest, abilities. You want to make sure you have the low score. That's why whenever I play golf, I want to make sure that if I'm picking someone that I know is worse than me. So I won't be coming in last and having to buy drinks at the turn.
Yeah. Well, but these are simple but effective lessons, man. Like, I had a really productive research agenda this semester, and we got down to the wire with one team, and we wanted to submit something. And I don't know why, I didn't ask why, but this person said to me that I put in charge of submitting it and handling that, because somebody has to be appointed the designated communication person, right? And this person said to me, well, it's due on X. Why do I have to submit it on Y? Which is like, there's a week differential, right? And so it opens up for submissions. I want it done that day. And he's asking, why can't I do it a week later when it actually closes? That's the due date. And my response to your point is, because I don't enter contests to be last. I enter contests to be first. And so the way that translates into this is, what you have to understand is there can be a myriad of issues with that submission that are out of our control, right? We're putting this into somebody else's technology. And if you submit the day of, you limit your ability to react to a problem. And that could cost us a submission. That's not something I'm happy about. So why entertain it? Just get it done now.
Absolutely. I'll give you a great example of this, and this is about taking action. Those with a plan and are moving forward, executing that plan. Those that don't have one will tend to step aside, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, last weekend, Saturday, I get an email from the TTB. That's basically, some of you all know, in the process of starting a distillery, the TTB is the authority of that. It's I can't remember what TTB stands for. It used to be just alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Now it's something a little bit different, but
Right.
It's something along those lines. I just can't remember the acronym stands for. But so they send me a thing saying, hey, there's a problem with your application, blah, 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 log onto your portal, and get these corrected. If there's no response within 15 days, we will assume you have withdrawn your application. I'm like, all right, let me take a look at what this is. I'm like, oh, well, this isn't that big of a deal. I'm going to do this right now. And then I emailed the government official that sent me the email. Hey, thank you so much for getting into this. I have already answered all the questions that are in the portal. Please let me know if there are any more issues. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Yep.
I get an instant reply back of, hey, I'm out of the office until November 30th. And I'm like, oh, what? This person's doing work over the holidays trying to catch up. So I'm like, all right, well, me responding back, because I completed everything, and it took a little while to do some research to answer the questions that the official was asking, but it was done within like a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
Monday morning, I get an email back. I didn't see your signing authority attached to the email. And it said, oh, I uploaded that to the portal. Did I not do it correctly? Because I've never done this portal before. I might not have done it correctly. Email back almost immediately. I see it, got it. You're approved. I'm like, oh, cool. I email back, hey, thank you so much for the quick reply. Really greatly appreciate this. What are the next steps? Reply comes back almost minutes later. From the federal government's perspective, you are good to go. It's now between you and the state. Good luck. I'm like, hey, because I had no idea. Because I'm like, this is my first time going through a process like this. Yeah. But that's the thing. If I had waited 15 days, would I have gotten that type of response? I don't think so.
Nope.
I think they would have been like, you don't care, so why should I care?
Well, and because that lack of action breeds an environment in which things don't work out.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to be stressed. Things aren't going to be working right. There's mistakes. You're going to make mistakes because you're rushing, because you're right up against that deadline. That you have to unpack all that. Where if you just take the 5, 10, even 15 minutes to just do it, it's done.
Yeah. And and especially with your example of the deadline, it's not like you were telling them 2 days beforehand.
Yeah, right.
Right? They've got plenty of time to plan their schedule accordingly to accommodate your deadline. Doesn't matter. Like, you're a part of this team, as well. And hey, this is the pace we're going at, because anything can happen. What if the upload just failed?
Right. Right.
They'll likely contact me like, hey, your submission didn't go through. Please resubmit. You'll get something.
I had a problem submitting research to a conference last week. And I did something by myself. And then separately, I have another effort with 2 of my colleagues. Okay. And as soon as it was available, I did mine. And because of the conversion process, there's macros you have to run and shit like this to convert document formats. Word, you know how much of a nightmare Word is to deal with. And sure enough, man, it had errors. And same story as yours, man. I had plenty of time because it wasn't due until this Sunday. I did this last Sunday. Plenty of time to work it out. I don't have to rush. I'm fine waiting on the people to help me because I have to wait on them. They're get it resolved. The other one hasn't been submitted yet, and it's not in my control to do it. And it's on that person to do it, and I can't help them. So I don't know what they're waiting on, but they're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
And so that's the other part is sometimes this goes back to the hive thing that can maybe kind of cap this a little bit, right? Sometimes you just have to let it go. I did what I could do. You've done what you could do. The queen does what she can do. And sometimes it just ain't in the cards, man.
Yeah, it might have been too cold of a spring.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. And that therefore everything got delayed and you just didn't get as much honey.
Yeah.
Or hey, COVID happened.
Right. Yeah.
Something that could happen unforeseen. And your team wasn't able to deliver all of the things that we originally promised. Right. But that's not through anyone's fault. The environment changed. Therefore, the priorities changed in order to be able to address the new baseline that we're going after, right? Or not the new baseline, the new priorities. We have a different baseline that we're now starting from because the priorities have shifted, and that's okay. Like, let's not dwell on it. This is why I love and I read this one constantly. Rudyard Kipling's "If," and the thing that sticks with me all the time is treat your success and failures as the same 2 imposters. Right? It's happened. Take a moment and then remember it no more, because you're only as good as what you're going to do next.
Right. So just get on with it, really.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter. No one, I can continue to talk about the good old days back when we were doing stuff in startups, or I can be doing what I need to do next. And that part of as well, if there's one more thing you can do to ensure a higher probability of success, do it, and do it now.
Right.
Don't wait. Do it right now. Because if you do, you just already say, if I do this, I've increased my probability of success. Why would you want to wait?
Yeah.
It's not in my bones to wait. I said, it's ready. It actually makes me more anxious when I'm waiting on others. I'm like, I need this right now, because I know regardless of what this answer is, I can move forward with a particular direction.
That's right. That's right.
And it drives me bonkers waiting. Where's your sense of urgency?
Yeah, right. Or just the other one that kills me too is I'm bored. Really? I mean, I'll take that from my 6-year-old a little bit. Not much. I'll take it a little bit. Right? But come on, man. See, and so I'll tell my colleagues, like, we've been regrouping and debriefing as we finish the semester, and understandably, people are really stressed out and have had big loads to carry. We all took on an extra class at least, and man, like I told you in the pre-show, I don't think I've ever had a less stressful semester that was more productive. Right? The perfect storm. And they stare at me, and I'm like, but here's the difference. instead of spending the summer actually creating things, which often you end up not using because plans change when you come into contact with the situation, right? I planned. That's all I did all summer is I just planned so that no matter what situation I got into, I knew what I was going to do and I didn't have to stress about making that decision. And then I just created what I needed as I needed it, which I have utmost confidence in my ability to do. That is directly what contributed to my lack of stress.
So, at what point do you stop with your not necessarily contingency plans, but plans that if this happens, then I'll do this? Like, is the probability of that occurrence at 50%? Do you stop at 80%, at 20%? Because at a certain point in time, I'm not going to worry too much about an earthquake happening in where I'm at in New York. The probability is very low. I don't even think about it. I'm more worried about a hurricane coming up the coast. But
oh yeah. For me, really, it revolved around the different scenarios in which I could find myself needing to present, let's say, a lecture is one concrete artifact, right? And so there's only so many scenarios that can happen in. And so my planning stopped at the point that the failure was me, as in, like, I'm in the hospital because I have COVID. There's no point in planning anymore at that point because, well, it's out of my control, right? But scenarios in which, like, because we started on campus and we finished on campus. Now, I was there the whole time, but the students came and went depending on their situations. And that's where the dynamic operating environment comes in. And that's what changes how you, let's say, deliver a lecture. And so I plan to a degree that I think this is where, like, percentages break down for me in my operating context. I could have 100% of my students in the room with me and nobody online. I could have 100% of my students online and none in the room with me. And then there's variations in between. And so the variations in between you can cover with just saying there's some portion online and some portion in person. And it doesn't matter what the percentages are at that point because you operate the same way. And so really it's 3 use cases if you think about it that way. And that's what I planned. And then I just planned in that mode on a weekly, not a per class. Because like some classes I have 3 days a week, some classes I have twice a week, right? So I didn't do it per class day. I did it per week. So I knew week by week what I was going to need to produce during the semester based on the decisions that I was making. And that almost 100% eliminated my stress.
Yeah. When I think about things, I start taking a look at, and I don't know how other people do it, but I look at it as if the probability of said occurrence in my mind is less than 20%, I don't look at it anymore. Yep. Because for that to happen in my mind, then that was so many series of events that I would have at that point already accounted for that 20% in the middle of the actions. So as I get down to it, I go, okay, yeah, the probability of me having 4 people call out sick, or even four people in my department all coming down with COVID at the same time, it's very, very, very low.
Yep.
Not in one department, especially because everyone's remote. And I go back to that as the coin flip analogy. And the probability of me getting heads or tails is 50%, but the probability of me getting heads 2 times in a row is not 50%.
Right.
So as I keep going, then I try, and I used to do this a lot more. I would actually write it down. Oh, the probability of this, the probability of this, and then realizing, well, hey, you got to kind of multiply those probabilities together, so to speak, and then to figure out, okay, yes, now. So if I thought one thing was 20%, it's actually much, much, much less because I need to have all of these events occur.
That's conditional, right? And so, like, because of the situation, it was the department leader is smart this way, right? And wouldn't surprise you to know that he was a West Point officer. Like, he graduated from West Point and then he taught at West Point. And so he thinks this way, which I like, which is we ought to have backups for everything. And so, like, if one of us gets sick or our kids get sick and we have to be out or we get quarantined, which never happened to us, but it did to other departments, who's teaching whose class when? And so based on that, which we all planned out ahead of time, then I can then make decisions on, okay, so I had a really aggressive publication schedule for the semester. What can I expend if the choice becomes, do I work on this or work on that? And that's the level at which I planned over the summer, so that if I got to a point, thankfully I didn't, but if I did get to a point where I had to pick up somebody else's class for 2, 3, 4 weeks, who knows, right? Maybe the whole rest of the semester. What am I not going to do as a consequence of that? Because I've already signed up for that. I've already made a decision to do it.
Yeah, that's the we have to continuously make choices.
Mm-hmm.
There's not, on the surface, there's no right or wrong choice yet, because you don't know the outcome. Okay? You only know an outcome is going to happen if you decide to not do what you're supposed to do. But when you're faced with a choice of which both things need to get done, hey, it's make the choice. Who knows what the result's going to be? Move forward.
Yeah.
Until something else gets in the way, there's no reason to not to stop with your current plan. But just don't double down on a mistake. And I think a lot of people do that. They
get in their own way. Yeah. See, and I think that's what compounds it too, is when you delay action, what you're actually doing is occupying a part of your consciousness such that you don't recognize opportunities that are coming up, because you can't, because you have this thing that's already slotted into that space. But and listen, man, I could show you my notebooks. I don't plan extensively, and I only do it on a week level, right? I don't plan minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. I have a set of things that I know need to get done over the week. And other than the classes, which I agreed to and have a binding contract to present, my schedule is whatever I make it, man. And so I take advantage of that. But I make sure that at that level of resolution, because it's optimal for me, I have an idea of what I'm doing when at a broad level, so that I'm not burdened with something that prevents me from recognizing opportunity, because I can always pivot. I have the power of autonomous choice, and I can take advantage of it. But if you delay action on things that need to get done no matter what, you're just preventing yourself from seeing opportunities.
Yeah. I think a lot of people forget that last part. They don't realize the opportunities as they're happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's those are the reasons why we have to be working on the business, because that's a time for self-reflection. Oh, did I miss an opportunity here? Well, is it too late? More than likely, it's not too late. If you've reflected, quickly enough, you can get back that opportunity to do whatever it is. But I don't think a lot of people take that much time for that self-reflection piece of it. And they're too busy on the day-to-day tasks.
Yep.
And if you've got your head into the day-to-day tasks, it's eventually going to catch up with you. And I gave this example to one of my directs today. I'm really strong in networking and security. And as such, what I needed to do as a leader, because I know I'm good at it, is to find someone that is at least has the potential of being good, so I can help mentor them to do that, so I can step back,
right,
lead. Right. If I were to keep doing it, then I don't pay attention to our other departments that I have that are reporting into me, because I'm focused inside the area that I had a very strong expertise in.
Right.
And I was questioned, but if you're that strong, then why would because you want to get rid, you actually want to delegate out in two different ways, at least in my mind. It's two different things: the things that you're the weakest at, and the things that you're the strongest at.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of them is, I know this person can take care of it. I know enough about it to be dangerous, but this person's great at it. The other one is, I can mentor someone. And when I mentor someone and that I'm teaching, I'm going to wind up continuously learning and be also evolving at that same time with those strengths. The pieces that are in the middle, I may not necessarily delegate. I might, but there might be things there because, hey, I'm, it's not that it's a strength or a weakness. It's something that's neutral, and maybe I want to do it. I get to choose what to involve myself with.
That's right. See, you retain that sovereignty, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that autonomy. And I think that's what's really important. It really is. And that's just what minimal effort into taking action, right? Because over time you'll build high amounts of momentum. That's what that gets you.
Yeah, absolutely. And because now I can pick and choose when I'm going to engage. Oh, they've got it. I can now disengage, let them go, and then go to the next team when I need to involve myself with them.
Right.
The analogy that I read in this one book, the gentleman Ari Weinswig, which I'm big fan of, he wrote that his philosophy is to manage by pouring water. And he says, as a leader, you need to, if you're going to be on the floor, you got to be doing something productive, right? It can't be just there to be there. So if I go and I pour the water for the guests, I get to inevitably hear from the guests. I also get to see if the wait staff are running a little bit behind. I then know which wait staff I need to help with. I get a sense of being on the floor. I'm in there in the moment, and I can figure out where to go because I'm walking around doing something that needs to be done. So I'm not in anyone's way. The guests need water. So he's like, I call it managing by pouring water. I walk around, I get to talk to the guests, and I get to see how the wait staff is doing. I get to see how the bus people are doing. I all know if dishes are behind, if the cooks are behind, and then I can engage where is needed rather than if I just sat back, I may not know because I'm just sitting in an office. And it's funny he's mentioned that because I love watching Bar Rescue, and almost every single problem, whether it's staged or not, I don't know, but almost inevitably, if the restaurant bar is having problems, it's because the person that was supposed to be the leader is sitting back in the office doing something.
Right.
While everything else is going to hell in a handbasket, and that's what they're doing. So that's his philosophy. I'm like, maybe. When everyone was in the office, I used to like to go around and talk to everyone, so to speak, at least be seen and available, so anyone could ask me anything. Now I don't really have that luxury of being able to walk around, but I'm trying to figure out how I can manage by pouring water in a virtual environment. It's a little bit, maybe I might just start doing an ask me anything during lunchtime. Hey, anyone in the company, I'm on live with our group's chat. Pop on in, ask anything you want.
That's it. That's interesting, man. I'd like to hear how that works out.
Yeah, because I used to, like, when I would walk around, I'm really having problems with such and such. I've put in a couple calls and no one's been able to figure this out yet. Okay, well, let me look into that for you. Because I get to hear. Because if it's that important that they're going to, basically pull me aside, then it must be pretty important to them. And in doing so, I make them feel like they are that important. They really are. That's without them, I have a job, right?
Yeah.
If I don't have any problems to solve, then they don't need me.
Right. That makes sense.
And the more problems we solve, I think people need to realize that just means you're going to have better problems later to solve.
That's right. Yeah. Well said, man. That's a great way to.
Yeah. So, well, my friend, any closing words for us tonight? Any words of wisdom?
Hail the Emperor of Mankind. Blessed be his days.
Nice. All right. Well, my friend, it was great seeing you again.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for having me once again.
Absolutely. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed a Whiskey Wednesday. With that, signing off. Good night.
See you, everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.